Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of CookieCast. Today on CookieCast, it's football. No guest host this week, but we've got the regular host. Paul's here to let us know what's going on in the football world and to guide us through the upcoming games, talk about the games that have been. Yeah, it'll be fine. It'll all be fine. Don't worry about it. If you're checking us out on YouTube, do us a favour and subscribe. It's a big help to the channel. And if you're listening to us, you can subscribe on SoundCloud, iTunes, and basically anywhere you get podcasts. So here we go. This is CookieCast, the Riverside Roundup. Let's see, are we working? Working hard or hardly working? One of the two. It seems to be working. With absolutely no technical difficulties whatsoever, we are here. Just me and Paul this week. Paul, what podcast is it this week? This time?
Well, if I do this, as is usually the case, obviously, it might give you an indication that it's time to pack your wellies because we're heading down the Riverside. Indeed. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. It's another instalment of the Riverside Roundup. Let's talk some football. Let's talk some Middlesbrough Football Club. Let's talk some championship-based nonsense and the wider football area for a change.
Sounds glorious. Is all I can say to that one. So, bit of a I've looked ahead, and it's going to be a bit of a quieter week this week. So, from a news perspective, I'm like, there's got to be some news going down. Got to be a lot of news. So, in a section that we like to call This Week in Football, what's been going on this week in football?
So, when we were discussing the ins and outs of the podcast, as there was only one game to cover for next week, and we said might be a short podcast this week. Yeah, it might be a short podcast because not a lot's happened, to be honest with you. I did find one, not a bit of news, but a bit of discussion potentially. In that earlier in the week, it came out that if needs be, Boris Johnson's come out and said that he feels that the UK is in a position to host multiple matches at the rescheduled Euro 2020. So obviously the tournament that was supposed to take place last summer got pushed to this summer because of the COVID outbreak, things like that. So it's scheduled to take place across 12 different host nations this summer. What UEFA have come out and said, this is directly from Sky Sports. So UEFA has reiterated its intent to hold Euro 2020 across 12 countries this summer. Earlier this week, Prime Minister Boris Johnson said the UK was prepared to stage more fixtures should any of the host countries be unable to fulfil their fixtures because of the coronavirus pandemic. Wembley is already hosting 7 games at the tournament, rearranged by a year, including all 3 of England's group matches, along with both semi-finals and the final. So as it currently stands, there's no change to the actual hosting schedule, things like that. It will go on as was originally intended, but obviously that could change within the next couple of months, depending on what happens with the remainder of the virus, things like that. If things start to get worse in one of the host nations, then changes might have to be made. Obviously, the ticketing situation is going to be a bit of a nightmare because I would imagine most of, if not all, the tickets have already been sold, and they're not going to be in a position where stadiums can host full capacity for games. So you would imagine, I think we might have even covered this on a previous podcast, that they'd set out an idea of fans being able to be back in grounds by around May.
Yeah.
So they may try and use the last week or so of the domestic season to trial fans back in grounds at reduced capacity. So I think it was a maximum of, I think the figure that I'd seen was a maximum of 10,000 or half the stadium capacity, whichever was lowest.
Yeah.
So obviously for a team like Middlesbrough, their stadium's around 35,000, so half that's 17 and a half. So therefore 10 would be what it would be capped at, because that is a lower figure. Whereas for a team like Hartlepool United, their stadium only holds about 8,000 people. So 10,000 is obviously much more than the capacity. So therefore half the capacity would cap it at around 3,000 to 4,000. So it'll be interesting, and you'd imagine that it will mainly be the teams in the Premier League or certain teams in Spain will try and do it to see if they're able to work at a reduced capacity and things like that. So just have to wait and see, really, and see what the situation is at the end of May, really, or middle of May.
I can't wait until they get fans back in the ground, and then you get footballers complaining that it's too loud. That'll just make me chuckle. I saw something to do with the budget announcement, saying that they were going to make provisions for sporting events as part of the budget. I wondered if that related to what we were talking about last week, with teams saying that they're unable to play. Whether there's any reflection on that.
Potentially, I've not seen anything. It's not come up on any of the sites that I've looked at. I think the problem is that if the government steps in to get involved in football, it gets into a bit of a murky territory, really. With, should the government be getting involved? Probably not. It's probably within their best interest to sort of stay away from that sort of murky territory, so to speak. Like, you'll have people that will come out and say there's much better things you should be doing with your time than getting involved in football-related figures and stuff like that. But I suppose we'll wait and see, I suppose. But as it stands, all the divisions below the National League are still working to the principle that they're not going to complete the season. So.
Right. Oh dear.
Oh, one small thing is that I think we discussed it on the podcast last week about Rangers up in Scotland.
Yeah.
That they were, I think it was 7 points from the title. They have played this evening, I believe, and have won, which puts them a point away from the title. Let's have a look. When can Rangers win the Scottish Premier League title? When's the earliest it can happen? With Stephen Gerrard's Rangers 18 points clear at the top of the Scottish Premiership and games running out, when could they be crowned champions for the first time since 2011? They've only played one of the 3 games they need. So they have their game tonight against Livingston and they won, so that puts them 4 points away from the title. So obviously, if they win and Celtic win up to the point where they play each other on March the 21st, that would just mean that it's a point needed at Celtic, and then they've got the title. So, it's they're 3 points closer to the summit, so to speak, as of this evening.
Nice. Well, if there's nothing more in the news area, we can move on to talking about what's in my book. I ain't talking about my little black one, that's for sure, because it's empty. At time of recording, one of our predicted games is in play at currently 74 minutes. Stoke City and
Correct.
Swansea City are still duking it out. And by the current numbers, it's quite even at the moment. Let's say, I can see from my display here that some people are going to be happier than others, depending if any more goals happen.
Interesting.
However, we've got 3 games to discuss before that. So what might happen is we might get through these 3 games and that game's finished, or we might have to predict next week. Next week is a quiet week. I've just realised that I haven't done the grid, but yes, it's a quiet week. I was not believing so. I went forwards and backwards and round and round and round to try and find what was going on, and it was just there are no midweek games, so the games to predict would have been Saturday to Saturday, and we would have podcasted in between. So we're just moving on with that one. So let's get down to talking about some football. Last week we had a guest host, and a damn fine job he did. It's almost like he's hosted podcasts before. It felt like he had experience, some would say. As I said at the time, big thank you to Stu for coming and guest hosting with the glamorous host. That meant there was a lot of predictions. A lot of games predicted, a lot of people predicting, lots going on. Obviously, no surprises to anybody. First game to talk about is Middlesbrough. And this one is Middlesbrough versus Cardiff City. Now then, what was the score in this game?
The score in this game, Andrew, was Middlesbrough 1, Cardiff City 1.
Now then, I looked at this. I looked at this score. I looked at the way it sort of turned out, and I was like, with Middlesbrough being a little up and down recently, I can't imagine a 1-1 draw's the worst thing in the world. So, can you tell me who scored each of those goals?
So Cardiff's goal was scored very much against the run of play in the first half by Sean Morrison, who seems to be in a bit of a purple patch at the minute, because I think that's something like 3 or 4 in his last 5 or 6 games. So he's rather the goal machine central defender at the moment. But I listened to the first half on the radio as I was waiting for my good lady partner to finish the shopping. So I was more than happy to let her shop solo, so I could listen to the football. But yes, the goal was scored against the run of play by Sean Morrison from a throw-in, no less. So that might come up again when we come to discuss the Coventry game later on. But so kind of a 1-0 up.
I did see a small interaction on the Twitter last night. So yeah, we'll come to that. So Cardiff went 1-0.
I got a message from Tom at one point just saying thanks for the constant updates on the game. That was nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the Cardiff goal was scored by Sean Morrison. The Middlesbrough reply was scored by Paddy McNair.
Indeed.
Doesn't score many, but when he does, they're vital.
Before we get down to the scores here, Like I say, a 1-1. I mean, it's not a loss. So what were we thinking on this game? He's not thinking anything.
Say again.
What are your thoughts on the game?
Oh, sorry. I thought the feed had gone out again there because it's been a bit sketchy the last couple of minutes. Sitting in the car was the standard. For the first 30 minutes, we were absolutely all over them. So on the radio, it was just basically every attack was the Borough. They were, keeping Cardiff on the back foot. Sounded like they were just hoofing balls into the Cardiff box and just hoping that something would stick, which is not Britt Assombalonga's game at all. He's definitely he needs the ball into his feet to be able to turn, to be more effective, and just disappointing first half, and then it didn't get much better in the second half, but they managed to get an equaliser out of it. And they've I don't know what's happened in the last couple of weeks because they've resorted to almost long ball, for want of a better phrase, shithousery tactics, and it's not the greatest viewing experience at the moment. Let's put it that way.
Okay, so as we've covered there, it's a 1-1. McNair and Morrison. Anybody want to guess what I'm about to say? Will it be something along the lines of not only did nobody pick 1-1, of the 6 possible points that could have been gained from goal scorers, not a 1. So yeah, nobody got any points out of that game. It's fine because we'll absolutely rectify that with the next game. And the next game is Blackburn Rovers versus Coventry City. Go on, what was the score? Let's talk scores first.
So the score in this one was, surprisingly enough, Blackburn Rovers 1, Coventry City 1. So an exact replica of the Middlesbrough Cardiff game, if you will.
Indeed. Off the top of your head, do you know the goal scorers?
I do. For Blackburn, it was Ben Brereton. And for Coventry, it was Matty James.
Yes, it was. Yeah. You already know what's coming. I've set it up and I've fired it over the middle. Nobody picked a 1-1 draw, and of the 4 possible goal scorers, guess what? Nobody picked any goal scorers. But it's fine. It's fine. Because we've got more games to talk about. And more games mean more possible points. I will point out, first half of the week, 3 people picking, 2 games, 0 points across the board. So we might not be the men for this job. But it's fine, because that's not the only reason we're here. Let's talk Coventry City versus Middlesbrough. What was the score in the game?
Well, there were 3 goals scored in the game. All 3 were scored by Middlesbrough. Yet the game wasn't 3-0. Yes, but it did finish in a Middlesbrough victory. So it was Coventry City 1, Middlesbrough 2.
2-2. So, talk us through how a 3 Middlesbrough goal ended in a 2-1.
So, obviously, as we discussed previously in the podcast, the opening goal was scored by Coventry from a long throw, which should be one of the easiest things to defend, as you just get your defenders in place and just get them to head it out. But the ball managed to drift across to the back stick, where Anthony Dijksteel managed to head into his own net, which was not the greatest start. So, yeah, 10 minutes into the game, and Borough once again find themselves on the back foot. That seems to have been a bit of a trait, if you will, of recent games, in that they, apart from the game against Cardiff, they don't seem to be able to get themselves going until they're 10 minutes in and they're inevitably one goal down. So it's an alarming trend, and it's something that Warnock needs to assess quickly and stamp out, because it's you're not helping yourselves when you're already behind the 8 ball, so to speak, by conceding within the first quarter of the game. Obviously, they managed to settle the ship and then kick on from there, and they managed to get an equaliser just before half time. When I was watching the game yesterday, because it was under the red button on Sky Sports, they actually brought up an interesting fact. I think I'll have to double check the figures, and I can't see them here. But the equaliser was scored by Grant Hall, which was his first goal of the season, and he was either the 15th or 18th different goal scorer for Borough this season, which apparently is the highest number in the Championship. So, whilst there's not an out-and-out goal scorer in the team, as in I think the top goal scorers may be a Somber Longer, might have 5, but they have the most different goal scorers in the team of any team in the Championship. So, whilst they don't have a prolific scorer, they are a fairly prolific team of scorers, if that makes sense. But yeah, that was Grant Hall's first goal since he signed. And then the winner was scored by George Saville on the 87th minute, having come on in about the 84th, I believe. Let's have a look. When did he come on to the game? So he started as a substitute. Yep, instant impact. Came on in the 85th minute and bundled home the winner 2 minutes later.
Beautiful.
Seriously, it was one of those very, very odd goals where Johnny Howson got it wide on the right-hand side and basically just dribbled it across the entirety of the box without being touched. Then laid it off to somebody, got in behind, pushed it across. Their defenders all missed it, and George Saville was basically just there. The ball fell at his feet. He took it a couple of steps on, and then almost hit the post when he lashed it into the back of the net from about a yard out. So he did his best to miss, but he did manage to get.
He's inadvertently scored.
Yeah.
Like, damn it.
What I did see was that he is. I think he's now the. Yeah, here we go. So this is what someone pointed out. George Saville is now joint top in goal contributions this season. So he has 5 goals and 4 assists. So he's been directly responsible, for 9 goals this season.
Nice work. So, I can confirm there are points in this game. So, Paul and Stu did the right thing and put themselves down for a Middlesbrough win. There was no 2-1s predicted. but Middlesbrough wins were predicted. Me, being the silly sausage that I am, decided I'll just edge me bets on this one. Go for a 1-1. So that puts me out of the running for the points, but with a 1-1, 2 goal scorers to pick from. No, but I wasn't the only one that couldn't pick a goal scorer in this situation. So unfortunately, the only points that were able to come out of that game were a point apiece for the hosts. As previously mentioned, I will double check, but as previously mentioned, at time of recording and all that gubbins, I believe we are still in play with Stoke City, Swansea City.
It is still playing. It has, however, just ticked over to the 90th minute.
I'm a little behind on that. So, what we've got is just the 2 games to predict. So what I'm thinking is, let's get the predictions done, and then we'll just double back on the Stoke one. First up, and I'm sure everyone's going to be surprised to hear this, Middlesbrough football. Swansea City versus Middlesbrough. I like to get in there early, get something in the book, get some names written down. If indeed I predict some scores, some goalsies, and then I defer to my illustrious colleague to tell us what's actually going to happen in the game. So, what have you got for me, Swansea City, Middlesbrough?
Well, this is one of those anomaly games where it's on a Saturday, it's at 3 o'clock, and it's live on television. There you go. So I'll be able to tuck in to the televisual feast that will be Swansea City 2, Middlesbrough 0.
Wow.
The reason I say that is because we don't go to Swansea well. I don't think so. The season we got relegated from the Premier League in 2009, so for the 2009-2010 season, we won away at Swansea maybe 3-0 or 3-1. And I think since then, I don't think we've won at Swansea since. So I might be wrong. I could be wrong, but certainly in the last couple of seasons we've gone there and we've been handsomely tonked. And I don't see that changing personally. Swansea seem to be... They're not on as good a run as they were before, so they are in a worse position, so to speak, but I still think that they'll have just a little bit too much too much for us, unfortunately. Yeah, the last 6 games, not including the current one that's ongoing, they lost at home to Bristol City, they beat Coventry at home, they lost 4-1 away at Huddersfield, they beat Forest at home, they lost to Man City in the Cup at home, so we don't really count that one, and they beat Norwich at home 2-0. So, a bit of a mixed bag. But yeah, sadly I think they'll just have a little bit too much for Borough on Saturday, fortunately.
Of all the things in my life I've regretted, the score I've put down for this game is going right up there at the top. Who have you got down for scoring these goals?
I'll go for Low and RU.
So, a lot of information there that I feel I could have probably done with before putting my score of Swansea City 0, Middlesbrough 2. But I'm absolutely sticking by it. This is the one. This is the one where they're like, we're not having it anymore. They've had our pants down too many times. Not this time. Fletcher's going to put an absolute screamer on them. And I know he's not our favourite because he was a bit of a firework. He started out great and then he's just completely died off. But this week, Chubba's coming back and he's putting balls in nets. So there we go. You heard it here first.
Oh God. First, kids.
Oh God. What was it Job said? I've made a terrible mistake.
I thought he said Job. I didn't realise he said Job. But yeah, I've made a huge mistake.
So with the way we like to work things, and we will completely ignore last week's absolute shambles, and we'll try and see if he's managed to get it right this time. We like to look forward to the future and look at what Middlesbrough might face, and then try and predict what Middlesbrough might do against the teams that they've got coming up. And the way that we do that is we look at predicting the next team's current game. So, if you followed that, as we know, you're a smarter man or lady than I am. But let's give it a go. Stoke City versus podcast third favourite team, Wycombe Wanderers.
Correct.
Hey! See, I can do my job. Now then, as we know, I've already filled my boxes in. More than likely incorrectly. But we're not going to talk about that either. Paul, Stoke City, Wycombe Wanderers, this weekend, go.
So, I will go for Stoke City 3.
Holy smokes.
Wycombe 1.
Wowzer. Okay. Goal scorers.
I would like...
Whoa!
Oh yeah, I've just seen it. We'll come to it in a second. Just leave the listeners and viewers on tenterhooks for just a couple more seconds. It's fine. I will go for Powell. So these are all for Stoke.
Yeah.
Powell, Chester, and Allen.
And for Wycombe?
For Wycombe. I'll go for Ikpiatsu again.
I like that one. I see what you did there. But here's what I did. I edged my bets. Stoke City 1. Wycombe Wanderers 1.
Interesting.
Now, as I am a man who likes to write the word Fletcher's scoring for Stoke, obviously. He's coming off the pitch for Middlesbrough, running all the way down.
He's going to somehow transport himself instantaneously from South Wales to the East Midlands?
Yeah, why not? Or
Staffordshire, there you go.
Yeah. And I also went for Ikpiatsu. Now then, that is the end of predicting those games, but are we talking about pennies on the dollar?
Oh, we absolutely are, Andrew. So, you're, quite frankly, outrageous Middlesbrough 2, Swansea 0, or Swansea 0, Middlesbrough 2 call
Definitely.
is on its own 16-1. And then your Stoke 1, Wickham 1 draw at 6-1 gives you a double of 118-1.
We won't be laughing when we're spending it on cigars and wanky beers.
Well,
wait, no. You know what I mean.
Yeah, well, yeah. So, Swansea 2-0. Wickham Stoke. Ooh. So, I've gone Swansea 2-0 Middlesbrough at 8-1 and Stoke 3-1 against Wickham at 12-1, giving me a double of 116-1.
Not far off then.
They're remarkably close to yours. Although, just before we go any further, as in just before we go back to last week's games, I do just need to show you this that happened at the weekend.
Go. My word.
So,
oof. Wow. Nice work.
So I've finally hit on a bet after the immense amount of weeks that I've had nothing but losers.
Sounds like my love life. Moving on swiftly, we have to go back a step because, as you may have guessed at this point in time, there was an end to the Swansea City Stoke City game, and you might have guessed that there was a little bit of an upset right at the end.
Well, shall we say it was a good thing that we didn't just call it at the 90-minute mark?
Absolutely.
You know, because it's always good to do that when you get a 96th minute penalty given to Swansea, which they score and win the game. So, at 90 minutes, Stoke City 1, Swansea City 2.
Now then, here's what's interesting about this. Because there's points. And the points get real interesting. So, just doing a little bit of quick maths on this one. So that guy's got that many points. No surprises that guy's got that many points. But that guy there's got that many points. And that makes things really interesting. And then so, unfortunately for you, Paul, no points were to be taken from the score. You went with a Desmond, and it wasn't to be. However, you did correctly pick one of the goal scorers. Points for you, sir. 1 point. I think we can agree at this point, of 4 games and a bajillion goal scorers, not a single point. Resignation is absolutely in the post. I did not correctly get anything out of this. I didn't pick a goal scorer and I picked the wrong team to win. I mean, this was after picking the wrong team to play, so, you know, we were always off on a bad.
Thought about that. That was good.
But we weren't the only people picking scores, and Mr. Woodmansey picked the correct team to win, just not the correct score, but it does get him a point. He also picked one of the goal scorers. 2 points. What that does for the scores is, obviously, first half of the week, nobody got nothing. Paul managed to claw something back, a couple of point a game, 2 points for the week, for the whole. This guy can't pick a score or a goal scorer to save his life. Probably time to hang the boots up. no points over 4 games. Mr. Woodmansey, though, took a point out of the Coventry Middlesbrough game and then took 2 points out of the Swansea City Stoke City game. And if anybody's got a calculator or an abacus or has more than 3 fingers can work out, he's won it, hasn't he? 3-pointer. I seem to remember this being a thing from the past. Getting these, these guest hosts to turn up and just absolutely run rampant on the scores.
Yeah, not ideal.
Congratulations to you, Stuart. Your prize will be here for you to collect. Or we can send him something in the post. I've got, wanky beer or something. So, as is the way of the recent things, we've got a new segment, and it's a very popular segment. Everybody loves it, apart from me, who is currently the only man out there that's having to find weird and wacky things. So, this week, keeping it real fresh this week. Still trying to find a baseline, as we know. We do not need the recipe for butter icing, though. So, I'll tell you that right now. What we do need is this one here. I'm going to give you a choice. Your choice is, do you think that you can tell me which is the smallest capacity football stadium and what is the capacity?
Right.
Or can you tell me which 3 players shared... Hang on a minute. No, because I had 2 there. 3 players share the record for most Premier League red cards. Who are they? Or... where's that other one? There it is. Which 3 players shared the Premier League Golden Boot in 2018-2019 season? So I've got a choice.
So...
pick your poison. Say it's the stadium. Go with the stadium.
The Golden Boot 3 was, I think... Salah, Mane, and Kane? Vardy?
No. To both.
Salah, Mane and Aguero? Oh dear.
I would say I'd give you a clue, and that clue is that I'm going to have an absolute nightmare pronouncing it.
Aubameyang.
Is the correct answer. I don't know how I feel about that. Should I have accepted your first answer and then I can take a win on it?
That's definitely a loss because I got it wrong twice. I'm assuming Salah and Mane were correct.
Yes, they were correct. I should have clarified that for you. They were correct. But yes, according to this...
The red card, did you say it was 3 players or 2 players?
3 players share the record for the most Premier League red cards, which is 8. Who are they?
I think one of them's Patrick Vieira. I'd have guessed at maybe Roy Keane.
No.
Richard Dunn? Ferguson? Duncan Ferguson?
Yeah. So that would have also gone down as a loss.
So that's another X.
Oh, we might be finding the good stuff. At least, what I can tell you is that in the area, in the darkest depths of the internet, where you've got to dig down with an actual shovel and pickaxe, I stumbled upon 100 questions in this quiz.
Nice.
But yeah, we can always talk about the smallest stadiums in the world. That's in the world as well. It's not even just like Premier, because one of them was like smallest stadiums in the Premier League. I was like, whatever. But yeah, smallest stadiums.
I'm definitely intrigued by this smallest stadiums in the world thing, though.
Interestingly enough, the second smallest is a UK one, but like the majority of them were like just random places around the world. But I feel that's one that we should probably save for another day.
Absolutely.
Obviously, now you are going to be like, just have a little look and find out what the 10 smallest stadiums in the world are, just in case that comes up again. It's never coming up. It's never coming up. As it is, like I say, it's left to me to I spend probably far too many hours a week just going like, it's like Inception. I start here and I'm like here and here and here, and eventually it's like, what colour underwear was this player wearing on this day when he scored this with his left foot? It's that kind of level.
Well, there is a question based around underwear that you could ask.
I'm sure.
As there was a bit of a strange. This is where I think it was either UEFA. I think it was UEFA. UEFA made themselves look a bit foolish, because I think in a week where there was shock horror, racist abuse by fans in a stadium, a player called Nicholas Bentner scored a goal for Denmark and then took his shorts down to reveal a pair of sponsored pants that obviously he'd been told by the sponsor to reveal if he scored a goal. And I think he was fined something like $15,000 or something like that. And then obviously the FA of the country who had the racist abuse was fined less than he was for his sponsorship gaff.
Sounds about right. Yeah, sounds about right.
So everyone was like, what are you playing at UEFA? You've got your priorities completely out of whack there. So
sounds familiar. So there we go. If you wanna, so we're getting an idea of what it might take to bring down the Giants. And at the moment, it's like rocks and pebbles. But maybe you have been sitting at home screaming at the TV or screaming at your AirPods about, I knew that, I could have got that. I bet you don't know the answer to this one. Things like that. If that's what you're saying in these sections, there's only one way to find out, and I will absolutely send you a prize, like a plaque or something like that. T-shirt. Everyone loves a T-shirt. So yeah, if you want to have a go at
God, that's it, isn't it? You basically have to make up T-shirts that just say like, I know more about football than Paul.
Yeah.
Send them out.
And people start wearing them, and then people start knowing what it means. It'll become it'll start trending on Twitter, and the next thing, poof, world's our lobster. So yeah, if you do fancy giving it a go, drop us a line. You can even drop us a social media interaction. Twitter. Paul is prolific on the Twitter, especially when Borough are playing. There we go. It brings us to the any other business section. I certainly don't have any business being here. And
from me.
And the gentleman over there shaking his head. So thank you to you, sir, for taking these lovely people through the choppy waters known as football. And until next time, I'm going to say bye and enjoy the weekend's games. So there you go. What do you think to that? Another one done. Another one gone. More games in the bag. More games to come. What more could you ask for? YouTube watchers. Sure, you're all subscribers. So if you're already subscribing, now's the time to go and find a friend or a family member and get them to do the same. If you just like to listen along, that's all fine. We've got no issues with that. But if you could subscribe on your listening platforms, that would be amazing. Everybody can go to thecookiecast.com, check us out over there, drop us a bit of social media love, an email, or try and get on to the old Beat the Jock. It's well worth it. So that's it for this one. Until next time, I'm going to say bye, and I will see you then. Bye-bye.